Hello to everyone. Really excited to see you in Belgrade, amazing city. So came yesterday, and today I have a topic which is literally maybe a little bit new for many of us because we talk a lot about decentralization. And it seems if you have a smart contract, you can simply deploy it and all things done, but it's not. And why I will talk the next half an hour. So let's start from blockchain trilemma, and definitely I will tell you that it exists for the whole life of Gearbox Protocol. Why? Because we should make a decision between three main things in all blockchain. The first part is scalability. We want to grow faster, we want to attract new users, and we want to get more and more traction. Another part is decentralization. So basically, you want to really be decentralized. You want to really remove one place of decision. And the last but not least, the part is security. We want to provide a really good and robust way for people, and they should trust you. So we will talk about that in the next 30 minutes. Stay tuned. And shortly about myself, I'm a blockchain developer. I participated in many hackathons, and Gearbox was a finalist of S Global in 2021. So I have no great connection, not Papa who works in VC fund or so on. It was just from scratch to 400 millions in 3 years. And it was 3 years of a very good job, but of course I am still scared because I can't even imagine so much money, 400 millions here. You can press this 0 button on your keyboard, but when you mount it around $500 million, wow. And what we could do there. Short explanation what Gearbox is. What we are building is a decentralized brokerage account. So basically, as it works in majority of CeFi or TradeFi, you can really leverage your money or strategies by using this decentralized account. And currently, Gearbox could provide you like X20 more money for major strategies. It depends, of course, of token, and you can build them in the most native way. So no predefined, no hard-code strategies. Gearbox works as your wallet, but with X20 more money. And this is a short explanation how it works. So you can see there are two-side protocol. On the left side, you can find the passive lenders, people who are willing to deposit money to the protocol to provide a good yield without zero efforts. It's a behavior like put your money and forget about them. They just work for you. And this part looks pretty similar like in Aave or Compound or any other protocols because it's a very standardized, currently ERC 4626, so nothing special. But what really makes Gearbox unique is the right part. And here you can see the strategists who want to get, for example, X10 leverage. So this person could open credit account is a new DeFi primitive. And to explain it better, credit account is just a smart wallet with some restrictions. And when you put money into this wallet by transferring them with a special method, you can immediately take a margin loan from the pool and get X10 more money. So you can see in the picture, the borrower provides 10 ETH and the credit account takes immediately 90 ETH to the pool. So after this one transaction, you already have 100 ETH and you can manage them as usual, so no special predefined things. And here you can see you can send different transactions through the credit manager. I will talk a little bit later, and they will be executed on behalf of credit account on third-party protocol. So it's the way how we integrate a lot of external protocols, and this architecture help us to grow faster and faster and faster. And literally, it works like you as a borrower send a transaction to this credit account. It checks only two things. The first part, the token you will get is not is whitelisted because, of course, we focus security from this blockchain trilemma on the first place. If you really support or contribute to lending protocol or protocol which has someone's money, you should put security on the first place. And then this transaction could be executed, and after that we recompute collateral, and what we really want to check that there is enough money to pay debt back. So any transactions, if you really borrow ETH and then go to Uniswap and swap ETH into USDC, you short ETH in natural way. There is no predefined strategies. You can choose Uniswap or any other IMM connected to Gearbox. If you go to Yearn and put this ETH into Yearn, you start immediately leverage farming. Or you can combine, you can borrow USDC, go to Yearn, at first park you long ETH, and then you put ETH and generate more yields, and so on and so on. So it's just the creativity of strategists, what they really want to build. And it's really show us the first big brick when you want to build a successful and scaling protocol. What we learned, modularity is a key part you should focus on. So what's in many cases happens with many protocols, I think you really listen many times, it's too late to come to the market. Oh, hype is over and so on. But why it happens? Why really smart people, very good developers could deliver something too late? We delivered V1 and we were late a little bit. We delivered V2, it started growing and we were late a little bit. And then we start thinking, what we did wrong? And the problem is development cycle. It's usual, you get an idea, oh, I want to leverage something. Then you should take some time for development, smart contract development, to make it really safe, takes a lot of time. Then you should book the audit, and someone who really book audits in this hall, who have experience with auditors. Oh, yeah, not many people, but you know, usually when you ask, okay, guys, we freeze the code and we want to get a slot, and they say, okay, in next 6 months we are fully booked, sorry for that. Oops. You really didn't think about that. But if you come next time and say, hey guys, we start working on new version, can we book in advance? In 6 months, you will get a slot and we will spend these 6 months delivering the code. They said, okay, good, send us a commit. I have no commit, I'm just start development. Sirs, how I can give you the last commit? Otherwise, we can't understand how much time we need to really audit your code. So it always took time. And the idea here is to minimize the smart contract. You need to integrate new things. And we did it in V3. And another part, which is also you faced when you integrate many other protocols, is composability. It's also a really nightmare. So we built a lot of small blocks to really fulfill all differences of the protocols, because all protocols is a very, very creative way. All curve pools really have a different signature, so you can't use one adapter to cover all of them. Some things do not really deliver the standard LP token. If you put money into Convex, you get nothing. You should find a solution how to integrate such kind of things, but it's a countable way. So currently we have a lot of predefined models to integrate it faster, and this is a result. Who really likes this point money? It was really fun that I came to the industry in 2017 and people all time ask, tokens are decentralized way. We want to have ownership of things. And then in 2023, points came to scene and nobody cares because they are fully decentralized. But at the same time, what do you think? What happens in this? I think it was a February 19th or so on. You can see a red line. Yes, this time when it started growing, it was when we integrated Renzo ETH, if I remember correctly, and other LRC protocols. And it was a huge hype. And to do that, we built this modularity to be really faster to the strategy to go to the market. And you can see it's really amazing. If maybe we would spend extra months for development or 2 months, it's too late. So my point, if you build a protocol, think twice how fast you can make a next iteration, how you can add a small plugin, how to write a very simple wrapper to attract new asset, new protocol, new technology, and deliver them to the market. Crypto development very, very fast. And another part, it's a crucial part because you should break the barrier, and people focused on UX in terms of front-end apps. But in my point of view, it's a totally wrong way if you do not take into account smart contracts. And usually I have a lot of conversation with smart contract developers, say, okay, we built a pretty complex stuff, so okay, we do not care how these front-end guys, because they really built in JavaScript. I know Solidity, and they built in JavaScript, so they could find some ways because smart contracts are very, very complexity. But when you deliver these smart contracts which has a bad UX, it seems that your users will really survive. And this is two examples of what we found is really works. The first part, as I said, Gearbox could help you to build the strategy in native way. It's a very, very significant. And if you have a complex strategy, for example, you want to have a 5 steps, for example, you want to swap ETH into USDC as it's shown, then you swap USDC into Frax, Frax into Frax3 CRV, and then you want to put that into the convex. And when the gas cost, I think around it was 100 to 200 ways, so you are not willing to spend too much. These 4 consequent transactions could take 5 minutes for each. It's 20 minutes. You ask a person on the smart contract level to sit near computer and wait. Just imagine 20 minutes to build a strategy. When you talk about looping, it could be much worse because for some other protocols, it could be automated, but not the way. So we really built multi-core 2022, and then it's create 2 very significant parts I think you should take into account. The first part, you should automate all the things related to approvals, automate all stuff related to technical work. But another part, currently, I think Gearbox is unique. We have an atomicity. So basically, you can add the rule as a contract that the transaction should be reverted if I get less this desired amount. It's a very, very good when we talk about smart contracts. And I start to build my strategy. I do not want to be broken in the middle and really pay all these fees when I put my assets back. Just imagine what happens if the transaction could not be executed on the step 3 when I want to swap Frax into Frax3 CRV. Something happens. Exchange rate is different because I spent 15 times before, and now the strategy is not lucrative for me anymore. I should go back, and for all these changes back, I will pay fees, I have price impact, and so on, so I can lose money, and it really breaks the user experience. So think twice about atomicity. If you can make an atomic way to go from token A into token B, and you can make a clear contract that I spend 1 ETH, and as a result, I will get not less than 2,950 staked CVX Frax3 CRV. Sorry for this complex name, we are in blockchain. It's cool because users really can understand the contract and should not spend a lot of time. And of course, try to remove all this stuff as possible. I really support any solution to use a permit 2, and so on, not to make these annoying approvals. Each time a disaster. And in Gearbox, we also have another layer of security, so we automate all these approvals when we execute transactions on behalf of credit account, and we set them back to 0. It's a very, very good practice. If you interact with third-party protocol, do not forget, do not be lazy to remove approvals because it really empowers your security, even with proven protocols like Uniswap or Curve when you do not expect shit could happen. And the last part, it's a really new content when we talk about decentralization. As I said, 3lemma means that you should at first focus in our way on different values, and different protocols, to be honest, focus on different things. So someone prioritize decentralization and security, but do not focus on scaling. There are some lending protocols which has, I don't know, maybe 10 million TVL, and it's hard to grow further because the whole complexity of decision making is delivered to end users. On the next part, we will also want to really deliver all stuff related to decision making, especially from the risk perspective, to someone, because if you provide too complex and too risky solutions for end users, it requires them to be PhD in math or finance to use your protocol, which is also a disaster if we talk about mass adoption. But of course, we want to remove this centralization as much as possible, and Gearbox continuously do these steps one by one to do that. We introduce the quota system. It's a really nice system when each token has its own limit. So basically, in a pool, you can consider pool of liquidity, and then we have a rule that not more than 10 million of this pool could be used as collateral. If someone wants to leverage ETH, for example, not more than 20 million of this pool could be used if an end user want to use, for example, Frax as collateral, but not more than 2 million could be used if the user want to use them for Renzo ETH. Yeah, it's not a number. And because we have a limits, it requires that high demand could create a shortage of these quotas. And of course, we introduced a pretty cool concept which called quotas, and each token has its own rate. So basically, if I use funds from the pool to leverage Renzo ETH, which is risky than normal ETH, I should pay more. But how to find this equilibrium, how to find the fair interest rate, not to be said by a short part of people who decided this is rates for the next week. And we built the way how gear holders could vote to really find this equilibrium, and the system works for 6 months, and it's really very, very adaptive. So it's create a good way, because if the gear holders could set up a pretty high interest rate, all people who want to use this asset as a strategist just close the position. And as a result, it's really reduce the utilization, and of course, gear holders are motivated to increase the utilization fees of the protocol and so on. On the opposite side, if we reduce the yield, more people on the passive side will close and switch to another protocol. And in this equilibrium, community find a really good way, and it's robust. We can definitely believe it's good. Another part is decentralized risk curators, which was really very, very successful, launched in Morpho. And this part to really make a next step when different risk curators could provide a different risk profiles to the target audience. If you have a different patterns, maybe some institutionals prefer to get lower yield, but much safer. And some maybe people who who has more risk appetite really prefer to get higher yield, but at the same time they understand that it's a little bit risky. And if you decentralize risk curators, if you provide them a tool to manage this risk, you really make a huge impact, huge step forward, because now you should not decide, the market decide, and people could really choose between the same asset pools, which really works better for them, for their risk profile, and it's a good way decentralization. And the last part, I think it's a very, very innovative things we are going to deliver, and we are still in research related to the bytecode repositories. So when you decentralize your risk curators, there is another problem when you want to have a final step of decentralization, because these guys still use code you write for the protocol. Here, as I said, in architecture, you need adapters to be connected with new protocols. You need to set up a proven price feeds to make possible to evaluate which asset and how much it costs. It's a pretty complex because if we keep the whole code on GitHub, and GitHub is centralized itself, and of course, risk curators and end users, it's very hard to verify that the code they could compile and deploy is correct. And of course, if some potential attacker could provide a malicious code into, not GitHub, but maybe could hack your machine and change one line of the smart contract during compilation time, it could be a disaster. And in this case, we establish a totally novel concept, which is called bytecode repository. So Gearbox as a protocol will push all things into a special contract, which is called bytecode repository. And then any risk curator could really use this code and use create2 opcode, who knows, Solidity could understand that, or EVM, and deploy the contracts as needed. The similar things existed for Uniswap, but in Uniswap, you have a standard factory when you can deliver the pools and pools and pools and not more. And here, it adds some versioning. So currently, you can provide the new version of the contract, and it's also available. And to make it the last step of decentralization, the auditors, which trusted by DAO, could provide signatures. On the first step, Gearbox dev team will be the main contributors there, but later it's totally okay if you, for example, want to launch a protocol and get leverage, build your adapter, upload to this bytecode repository and ask some auditors to prove. And they provide a valid on-chain proof, like a signature, and then if it's enough to the consensus that the code is not malicious and work perfectly, because of course we should trust some auditors there, it's okay to be used for all risk curators. And in this game, the involvement of Gearbox dev team, involvement of DAO could be reduced because now everybody could deliver code. Now everybody as a risk curator could connect new assets, build new products built on modularity and deliver them faster. And we really remove all these barriers to solve this lending dilemma, because as I started, we have three things to be focused. Security we put on the first place. Then, of course, we put scalability, and this is the last piece, how to make it fully decentralized and increase the speed. And it's the way what we really learn practically, so it's not like a theoretical things or something, it's what we do every day by delivering the code, check the concept, and so on. And the last part, I also want to talk about the things, what could happen with DeFi, because currently it seems that in a new paradigm, when we talk more about cross-chain abstraction, account abstraction, DeFi should be transferred somewhere. And the huge change happens when we introduced 4844 EP, which really reduce the gas cost. So currently, as a developers, we can build a new level of the protocols, because primarily we were focused on gas consumptions maybe 1 or 2 years ago. It was disaster. We really fight for any GWAI or any gas cost. Currently, it's totally free on majority things, especially in roll-up-centric ecosystem, which Vitalik said, and it's a good way to be really closer to your customer. And this new things, in my point, will really make the developers to make more complicated system, use more code base, large base, and create better things. And in this case, it's pretty cool that Gearbox, as I said, built on the idea that you have this decentralized brokerage account. It works as smart wallet, and it's possible to integrate it when all EAP 3074 and 7012, if I remember correctly, will be implemented on the node, because it's really cool to have your own wallet as a smart contract wallet, but with is 10 times more money. Similar like credit card, which exists in real life. So when you need money, you pick them in your wallet and use across many strategies. And it could be supported with all the centralization things I already mentioned. And in some future, I believe the whole DeFi will be transferred to these layers. and not only exist on one chain or one rollup, it will be some intermediate solution which could fulfill different needs and efficiently transfer liquidity between different networks, because this liquidity fragmentation problem still exists, and we should work on them to create the equal interest rates and things across all rollups to make this rollup-centric ecosystem closer and closer. Currently, people are really worrying about using the protocols on L2s, and you can see and compare TFL on mainnet and on all other L2s. But all these things related to eigenlayer, AVSs, and other stuff really help us to build this system when liquidity could be available to borrow on all rollups simultaneously. And at the same time, you can build different strategies with a really zero or equal zero fees and make your and your family profitable. So that's all. Thank you so much. Thanks for your attention. Maybe questions? I know it's a lunch ahead, so yeah, sure, please. Can you use mic because, yeah,
Hi.
Thank you.
So we're used to hearing about liquidity fragmentation as hello? We're used to hearing liquidity fragmentation as a challenge. And when you mentioned it, actually, I was wondering if it should indeed be considered a challenge. Is liquidity fragmentation, do you see it as a problem, or is it maybe actually a good thing?
I think it's a problem because what happened, so there are two things in liquidity fragmentation. The first one is timing, and the second one is cost. So basically, if you want to get liquidity on L2, and it could cost you a little bit more than on mainnet because there are additional risks come to scene, maybe it's totally okay. But if there is no way to get liquidity on L2 and you should wait around half an hour when bridges could finally deliver it, it's not okay for DeFi speed. For example, if you have a pool, and especially it's significant in terms of lending protocol, during the liquidation phase, you have a short period of time when any lending protocol like Gearbox, Morpho, and others should sell some assets to make this account healthy. And this time currently much less than even bridges could deliver these assets. And for many long tail assets, it's still impossible. So basically, when you ask someone how fast you can deliver from mainnet to native, it's pretty cool, but the backstage ends up with 7 or 14 days, which is fully impossible. So we have like a lack of communication between different chains, and as a result, it limits the growth there and scaling. But thanks, it's a really good question.
Thank you.
More questions? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. Have a good and productive days here in Belgrade.